Okay, welcome everyone. Tonight we're going to speak about the three. We spoke about Shema and Baruch Shem Kibbur Malchus. Shem Kibbur Malchus Olam V'Led. So now tonight we're going to continue our discussion, and we're going to talk about the next three paragraphs. And so first we'll talk about them. Just give the high picture, and then I thought that the best way to really understand these different parts of the Shema was to look at it with Rashi's explanation. I just think that gives the best. Before you could even begin to understand it on a deeper level, you have to understand what the words are saying, and there's no better place to look, especially in the beginning, than Rashi. So that's what we'll do. But first, just to give like a little bit of a background. So the Gemara in Brachos says that first we say Shema, and with Shema we say V'ahavta to love Hashem. We mentioned at the end of last week's year that saying the Shema is sort of the Yiras Hashem, the fear of Hashem, and then there's also the V'ahavta, which is the Av of Hashem, and you need both of them in order to serve Hashem. So that they kind of go, the Shema with the V'ahavta kind of go hand in hand. And then the Gemara in Brachos says that we say the next paragraph after that, the big paragraph, the Hayah, because just like we're accepting the yoke of God, of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, so we're also want to accept the yoke of His mitzvot, and that's obviously going to make a lot more sense after we look at the words. But that's really what the essence of the second paragraph is about: is accepting the yoke of God's mitzvot on ourselves. And then the Gemara in Brachos also asks, what about the Parshas Tzitzis, the last paragraph? Vayomer Hashem Moshe Lemor, right? So why do we say that in Shema? Because we say this every single day, and these paragraphs they're not next to each other in the Torah. They're all in the Torah. They're all in the Psukim, but they're not next to each other. So how come we chose these paragraphs to put next to each other? And you can understand the Hafta, you can even understand the Hayah, but the last one is about Tzitzis. What's so important about that? So the Gemara says that we put the paragraph about Tzitzis because it has, in addition to Tzitzis, there's 5 other mitzvot which are included in that paragraph. So 5 mitzvot are to remember the Yetzias Mitzrayim. Number 2 is this might be why it's connected to the Hayah, that it's about the yoke of the mitzvot, that by looking at the tzitzis, you remember all of Hashem's mitzvot. Number 3 is das meaning avoiding the influence of non-believers. That's what we get from the words lo tatura lechem. You shouldn't go after your heart. Number 4 is her avera, meaning avoiding immoral thoughts. That's what we get from the word b'acharei enichem, after your eyes. Don't fall to what your eyes are. Don't let your eyes stray. And then finally, her avodah zarah, avoiding thoughts of worshiping false gods, and that's from the word atem zonim. So that's why the Gemara explains, at least that's why we put tzitzis as the last paragraph. So now let's take a look at the words inside. We're just gonna, if you want to pull up a text, you have a sitter or anything, or if you want to open a Chumash, you can follow along the Rashis for sure. We're gonna read it with Rashis, and then maybe at the end, if maybe it'll become clear why these 3 paragraphs are placed all together, and why this is this is central part of our tefillah. We say it twice a day. Why why did Chazal choose to put this all together, and why is it so much of a core of our tefillah? So so if you want to Chumash, it's in Dvarim, Perek Vav, starts with Pasuk K. That's where we'll start with the Hafta, and then we move to the Hayayim Shimon and Vayomer. So we'll read through Rashi's commentary. So Rashi says, "V'ahavta es," so this is the pasuk. "V'ahavta es Hashem lokecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha v'chol medecha." You shall love your God. You shall love the Lord, your God, Bechol levavcha, with all your heart, ubechol nafshecha, with all your soul, ubechol meodecha, and with all your means. So Rashi explains first, ve'ahavta. So what does it mean to love? So Rashi says, asay dvar me'ahava, einu domel. So he says, perform asay dvar me'ahava. Do his actions, do what he says, his commandments, out of love. And Rashi explains, einu domel ha'osa me'ahava la'osa me'yira. You can't compare one who does something out of love to someone you can't to one who does out of fear. And like we mentioned in the beginning of this year, that since we said that the Shema Yisrael was Yiras Hashem, so now it's a perfect transition, right? Okay, it's great that we have fear of Hashem, but you can't compare it to one who does something out of love for Hashem. It's on an entirely different level. If one serves his master out of fear, when the master sets a great burden on him, the servant will leave him and go away. Whereas if he's out of love, the servant will serve even under a great burden. That's what Rashi explains. Okay, bechol levavcha, serve Hashem. Ve'ahavta Hashem l'kecha, love Hashem. Rashi explained, do it out of love. Bechol levavcha, what does that mean? With your entire heart. So Rashi says, bishnei yitzarecha, with your yetzer tov and your yetzer heart. You should serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Davar acher bechol levavcha she'alibcho chaluk al hamakom. That you should your heart shouldn't be shelo yelibcha chaluk al hamakom. Your heart shouldn't be divided, shouldn't be at variance with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. What does it mean to serve Hashem with your yetzer hara? To serve with your yetzer hara and serve with your yetzer tov. So I think it means there are times like you gotta kind of use your yetzer hara to your advantage. Like the example I think of is in yeshiva. There's like a little bit of a social pressure to stay late in the base medrash. So so sometimes I'm trying to phrase it correctly. Sometimes you're in the base medrash, you get a little tired. You're like, I'm ready to go to sleep. Your learning's hard. You're getting a little bored. But you kind of have a yetzer hara to be the last one standing. So it's not always correct, but I think there are times where, you can sort of use your yetzer hara for good. We tell Shalom Lishma Ba'al Shema. So there are times where you're doing something, maybe not for the best reasons in the beginning, but eventually it will turn into something that's as, more, which has better intentions. But you've got to sort of understand yourself and where you're at. And sometimes you have to use your yetzer hara, sort of play games with yourself almost and trick yourself to do the things that deep down you want to do, but are sometimes hard for you to do. That's how I read it. Okay, v'chol nafshecha, and with your entire soul. So Rashi says, afilu hu notel es nafshecha, even if he takes your soul. So I was reading this Rashi earlier today, and I was very confused. Even if the Rashi quotes a Sifri, which says basically they explain that as there's three ways that the Mefarshim explain this from the Sifri, that either means give up your life or give up your life in a different way, or you should get a bris. So I asked someone in the base medrash, and I said, what does it mean, physically give up my life? It says nafshecha, not nefesh means soul, but it doesn't mean your physical body. So he said, no, that nefesh, soul, always goes hand in hand with dam. It says in Achrimos, compares nefesh, the adam who are nefesh. It says that a few times in Achrimos. So when we say the whole nafshecha means to give up your blood, and so that's where the other pshat comes in. It maybe means give up your blood, like for a bris milah. But others say no, it means you should even be willing to give up your life. You should love HaKadosh Baruch Hu so much that you even be willing to give up your life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Next last Rashi on this pasuk, the whole mamumcha, with all your money. You should love HaKadosh Baruch with all your money. And Rashi says, profoundly. There are some people who love their money more than their actual body. That's why the pasuk had to say b'chol meudecha, because we would have thought that the most important thing to you is your nefesh, is your soul. But there's some people who the thing they care about the most is money. So for them, they should even be willing to give up all their money for Kadosh Baruch Hu. Davar acher b'chol meudecha b'chol mida umida shemodeh lecha be'mida tova be'mida peranios. So this is another explanation. It means that you should love God with whatever happens to you, whether it's a meat of good or whether a meat of bad, or some stuff that punishments that he does to you. So Rashi explains that you got to stay Kadosh Baruch Hu for both in love of Kadosh Baruch Hu for both the good and the bad that happens. Okay, and the next pasuk, and these words which I command to you this day shall be upon your heart. So Rashi explains, Umahu, what is the love referred to in the previous pasuk? What should you love? You should love these words. Through this, that through this you're going to come to recognize God, and you're going to be able to cling to His ways, and that's how you're going to have this love of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They say, okay, you have to have Ahavas Hashem. What does that mean? How am I supposed to love God? You ask yourself, what does it mean? I'm supposed to love God. So Rashi says this is what you're supposed to do. That through these words, through recognizing these words, and doing the mitzvos, then you're going to come to see Hashem. You're going to cling to Hashem. You're going to love Hashem. So Rashi continues that which I command to you today. Lo yu beinecha kid tugma yeshana shein adam sofna ela kechadasha shakol ratzil nikras. They shouldn't appear to you, the words, the mitzvos of God. They shouldn't appear to you as an edict, an old edict which no one cares about, but as a new one which everyone hastens to read. You should be running to do. You should be excited to do the mitzvos. Run to do the mitzvos. That's the point. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibar tabam. You should teach them to your children and speak of them. When you sit in your house, when you walk on the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. So Rashi has some famous comments here. Vishinantam, you shall teach to your children. So Rashi says, quotes from the Gemara, and from this is free. Lashon chidud, this is an expression. Vishinantam. What other word does that sound like in Hebrew? Vishinantam sounds kind of like shinayim, like teeth. So Rashi says, Lashon chidud, it's an expression of sharpness. They should be sharp in your mouth. If someone asks you, you shouldn't need to stutter over it. You should be able to answer them quickly. That's how you should study the mitzvahs of God and the laws, so you'll be able to know them just like that. Levanecha. So what does Rashi say when he says you should teach them to your sons? He says Eilu Talmidim. This means to your students. He says we find a lot of places that students are called banim. They're called sons, called children. The pasuk says we are banim. We are sons. We are children to Hashem, our God. He says Rashi continues, just like Talmidim are called sons, kacharav karei av, just so too the teacher is called the father. Shenemar avia av rechav Yisrael. Okay, v'dibar tabam shlo ya ikar dibur elabam. I say ikar yal tasem tafel. So we said you should speak of them. Not only should you speak of them, but they should be the primary focus of your conversation. It should always be on your mind. It shouldn't be something that's like secondary. They should be the ikar. They should be the principal topic, the main topic. Okay, we skip that Rashi. Rashi just says there, he says, so he's just teaching you about the dinim of saying Shema. And explaining that the Torah is teaching in the normal, just about the usual manner of, because it's normal to go to sleep in the night. Rashi continues, the pasuk continues, pasuk ches, you should tie them as a sign on your hand, and they should be for you as totafos in between your eyes. So Rashi says, what does that mean? Rashi says, Elu tefillin sheb Israel. This is the tefillin that you put on your arm. It comes from this pasuk. What does that mean? Elu tefillin sheb arosh. Rashi says, Al Shem minyan parshiyos sayam, because of the number of parshas that are in the actual tefillin, that's why they have the name totafos. So he says, tat in bekatvi shtayim, tat be'akratvi shtayim. So he says that tot and fot both mean two in these languages. That's how they got the name of totafot, because there's four in the Shalrosh. There's four different parshas. So that's how you got the name there. And then finally, the end of this paragraph, you should inscribe them on your doorposts, your mezuzahs, right? That's mezuzah, beisacha, visharecha. Rashi says mezuzos is only written with one vav, because you only need one mezuzah per doorpost. Visharecha, that means in your gates, l'rabu, shari chateris, shari medinos, shari arabs, to include different gates of the courtyards, gates of the Medinas, gates of the city. Okay, and that's basically the hafta about this love of a Kadosh Baruch Hu that I sort of view it as countering, or coming to make the yira. It's in the natural step after accepting God. Then right away you have to talk about the love for Kadosh Baruch Hu and the avas Hashem. So I see it's already 9:35. Maybe let's pick up with V'haya and Vayomer next week, I think. It's already getting late, and